Hello, Monetization Nation. What businesses say about themselves is no longer credible, and influencers have become highly credible sources that customers look to and trust instead. In this episode, Shane Barker, an influencer marketing expert, is going to share some of his secrets about influencer marketing. Tectonic shifts are constantly transforming the earth and business, causing destruction and huge growth opportunities. I'm Nathan William, the host of Monetization Nation, where we learn how to leverage business tectonic shifts to transform monetization. I am so excited to be interviewing Shane Barker today. I have followed Shane Barker for a long time, and this is kind of one of my I've arrived moments that someone like Shane Barker has agreed to be on my show. Shane Barker is a UCLA professor. He teaches a super cool class that I would love to take about personal branding and how to be an influencer. And he's developing a course that is going to be available for people like you and me to take online and learn the things that he teaches in his class. Shane is a consultant. For example, he created a startup that reached more than a $25 million valuation in 2 years. His consulting practice specializes in influencer marketing, product launches, content marketing, sales funnels, targeted traffic, and website conversions. He consults with multiple Fortune 500 companies, and he has some A-list celebrities on his list of clients. Shane, can you mention any of those on the show?
Yeah, so we've worked with, like I said, there's some that, we have strict NDAs, other ones that we didn't, just depends on the work that we did for them. But I worked with Angela Bassett back in the past, and we've done some stuff with her, got her verified on, actually on Twitter, and some other things that we did. And then Shane Sparks, which was on So You Think You Can Dance. He was a client of ours as well, and actually became a good friend. I mean, anybody that's a fellow Shane, we have to assume that there's some synergies there just out the gate. So I used to go down and visit him in Southern California. And there's some other A-list celebrities. Like I said, I can't tell you about some of them because of the type of work. We would do a lot of online reputation management. So, yeah, that's probably all I could tell you in regards. I'd have to look at who else, but I'm sure there's probably somebody else I could tell you about.
Okay. Shane writes for Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, and Huffington Post. He's created infographics. So he does a lot of work with content marketing, and infographics is one of his specialties. His infographics have been viewed more than 350,000 times and have been featured in more than 950 articles and publications. He publishes the Marketing Growth Podcast, and he's received numerous awards. I'll give you an example of a few of those. Marketing Insider Group named Shane one of the top content marketing influencers, and Salesforce named him one of the industry's top influencers. He also has published a series of super cool ebooks. Maybe at the end of this, Shane, we could talk a little bit about where people could find those and how they can learn a little bit more about you and your services. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much for joining me today.
Yeah, I'm excited about this, Nathan. I'm really, really excited. When you reach out to me, I was like, oh, this is going to be a great opportunity to kind of get to know you, and we can work together. I'm excited.
Yeah, I look forward to it. All right, so on our show, Shane, one of the first steps that we teach people is something we call connecting through passion, where we find what we call the level 10 passion of our target audience, and then we build our relationships through those level 10 passions. So could you please share with us one of your level 10 passions so that our audience could better connect with you?
Yeah, I would say, for me, there's a number of things that I think that I'm passionate about, but really these days, what I'm really, really passionate about, in fact, we didn't even touch on it in the intro because once again, I've been doing a lot of things over a lot of, for a number of years, but my passion right now is really helping small businesses. And I actually do that through, I actually work for the Small Business Administration, and I do stuff for the SBDC. And so right now my passion is helping businesses that have been put in a difficult situation because of COVID and because of the pandemic, and being able to help those businesses be able to either transition online from offline, or to figure out how they can, have other revenue streams, or how they can keep the doors open. So right now, I would say my top 10 passion, or the passion, the thing that I'm really pushing towards, is getting out the information that I've learned over the last 25 years, and giving that to small businesses for free, and being able to offer that.
So you've moved to the legacy, leaving a legacy phase of your career.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's funny. So like the funny story about it is like the way that it came about is I have a friend of mine that's a director for the SBDC, Small Business Development Center. And I went and had a beer with him. And the joke that I always tell everybody is that there was like a Jedi mind trick. I had one beer, and then all of a sudden, by the end of it, I was working for him. I don't know if he put something in my beer or what happened there. But and then I told my team, I was like, hey, you guys, I'm excited. I'm gonna start doing stuff for the SBDC. And they're like, what do you mean do stuff for the SBDC? Like we have 30 people over here that you have this private consulting firm. And I go, yeah, I'm going to start helping small businesses. And they're like, oh, okay. And we talk about pay, and they're like, that's nowhere close to what you make over here. And I go, yeah, but it's not about that, right? It's about helping people. And so for me, it was less about, the money and how much can I make from this, but more about helping businesses. And my heart's with the small business. I've always had small businesses, and I've been able to grow them, and I've worked with a lot of small businesses. And unfortunately, where I'm at today, I'm too expensive for most small businesses, right? And so I thought, well, that's just not fair. Like if I have knowledge, if I know that I have knowledge that I can give to somebody for free, and I'm not doing that, then I'm doing a disservice. I mean, we created my blog, shanebarker.com, 9 years ago with the goal to give people enough information to be dangerous. You want to learn about content marketing or SEO or influencer marketing, you can go to my website. And when I write, the blog posts that we write are extensive. And the goal of it is for you to go and get educated, and if you feel like, hey, you need to hire somebody like myself to help, to whatever, put together a campaign or drive traffic or convert, site sales or whatever that is, great, then I'm here to do that. But the SBDC stuff that I'm doing through the SBA is literally because I just know, I've like I said, I've had small businesses that have done well and that have failed. And I know that, the way how strong entrepreneurs are, but it becomes very difficult when you have something like a pandemic, or you have something like COVID that is uncontrollable. It's not that you're not working hard enough. It's that you have a third party of something that is stopping you. And, when it comes to government and other stuff that plays into that, it's like, what do you do? Like, how do I survive? And I just know those people that have sleepless nights and that are trying to figure out how they're going to feed their family. And if I'm not out there doing my part in helping those people, then I'm doing a disservice. And so that's really where my passion's at right now is, and I love influencer marketing too. And we're going to talk about that as well. I mean, influencer marketing is awesome. And there's huge potential with it, but really the people that are, I hate to say bleeding out, but the people that need help are the small businesses. And so that's where my heart's at right now.
Love it. We at Monetization Nation love storytelling. Would you please share with us the story of your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I don't know if we have enough time. We'll see if we might have to stretch this one out a little bit.
I would not mind that, by the
way. You can make that happen. So this is the thing. So my story, I'm probably going to miss little pieces, but I started off doing my own businesses. I mean, I was going through college, and I started a business called Hot Pad. And it was a reusable heat pack that I found, and I actually had a patent on it, a co-patent on, and it was manufactured out of Korea. And so I created that, and I was opening kiosks. And so I had kiosks here in Sacramento, and then I had some in the Bay Area as well. And I got investors, brought the product in, did everything, did the logo, did the website. I mean, I hired freelancers, so I was pretty much managing the project. I'm not a graphic designer by any means. And I put the whole project together, and we started doing different ones that were like therapeutic for your back and your shoulders, and had braces. And then I did promotional items as well. It was the product, what it is you bend it back and forth, and it heats up to 130 degrees instantly. So it had kind of and it's all non-toxic. And so it had really a cool factor of like liquid, and they would go super solid because it was like a salt-based solution. And so it was really awesome to and it was great. And you could reuse it. So you could go put it in a pot of boiling water. It would go back to its original liquid state, and then you could use it again. So we started doing promotional items with like Disney and NBC, and got some really good accounts there. And it was a great product. People were using them for, I was a sucker for, anybody that would reach out to me and say, hey, I've got back problems, and, but I'm just not, I'm a, disabled vet or something. And like, all you'd have to say is disabled vet, and you automatically got a free product, and I would send it out to them. I mean, anybody that was, vets or anybody that needed it, that didn't have the money, I was giving it out. My wife, I remember her saying like, this is awesome. You're making good money, but like, how many are you going to give out? I'm like, don't know. I'm going to keep giving them out. If people need them and they're reaching out to me, then I'm here to give them out. So anyways, it was a good business. And so that did well. And then I ended up going to, I ended up doing, I worked for Chevy's Mexican restaurant. And Chevy's Mexican restaurant was, a lot of people, I think they only have a few restaurants left in the nation now, but I was doing, traveling around opening restaurants. So I started off as a busser when I was 16, it's like Shane 1.0, we're like at Shane 3.0 right now. But Shane 1.0, and I was bussing tables, and then I became a waiter, and then I became a server, and then they wanted me to become a manager. But instead of being a manager, I went and I would travel around and open these restaurants. And so I opened up all over the nation, and I would go and put together their point of sale system, which is their squirrel system. So I would put those together and do training. So I would go out there and do that. That's kind of my offline. That was my offline gig. And then after that, once again, I had HotPad, and then I just kind of took off from there, and I've always had my own businesses. Ended up graduating in CSUS, California State University, Sacramento, and I've had my own businesses ever since then. The businesses that you referenced earlier, I had one that I built from 0 to 25 million in 2 years, which was, I had 130 employees. I had 3, maybe 4 locations. And I had a co-founder as well, 2 co-founders, but it was quite the journey. So that was kind of an insane little journey. And what a lot of people don't know with that business is I actually got sued by the Attorney General for $60 million, no, $65 million, which is a whole nother conversation. And it was kind of a crazy story and how that came about. And so, long story short, we ended up getting out of it, and we ended up settling on the case. But it was a crazy journey. Like what I learned through that whole process of being an entrepreneur and attorneys and all this stuff and the legalities of it and the red tape and government and stuff, I realized that, I couldn't have gotten a degree at Harvard or Yale or anywhere and really learned what I learned from just having a business that grew that fast. And then, having the Attorney General come after us because we were in the real estate industry and we were helping people that were put in bad loans. And so we would go after people, we'd go after lenders that would lie to people that, didn't speak English or didn't, tell them they're going to get a 4% loan and they got a 10% loan. And so I would go after those individuals. And wasn't real popular with some of the bigger banks. They didn't like the fact I was doing that, which is, like I said, that's a whole nother podcast in itself. So I did that, built that business up. And then ever since then, I've really done consulting and help businesses, once again, drive traffic online, convert traffic online, sales. And then I started doing the UCLA thing of doing influencer marketing, which I jumped in the influencer space about 9 years ago. I had a client by the name of Zoe Rodriguez that we took from 400,000 to 1.6 million. She was a fitness influencer, which is a phenomenal story in itself. Just Zoe came to us and was making $30,000, $40,000 a month. I couldn't believe that she was making that kind of money selling, PDF files through Instagram for fitness stuff. Her fitness programs were push-ups and sit-ups and squats, and there was nothing unique about it. She just had a very engaged audience, and that was when we realized she was an influencer, but weren't really using the term influencers at the time. And we took her up. We redid everything, her website and her logo and her sales funnels. We redid everything, and so we got her to 1.6 million. She was making $1 million. She was clearing $1 million a year through the programs that we put together. So that's kind of how I cut my teeth in the influencer space. And then content marketing. Once again, I write for about 150 different websites. So obviously I have a team. There's no way that I stay up 24 hours a day and just write all day long. But so I have a team that does that, but I write for Inc. and Forbes and Huffington Post, and have been doing it for a long time. And as you touched on, have the podcast, the Marketing Growth Podcast. We actually just cracked, we're 33rd on for iTunes for business, on our business podcast. So I'll let everybody know, if you're hearing this and you're number 32 and below, I'm coming for you. I want you to know that we are, I'm not moving. I'm going to move some people out of the way. Hopefully that doesn't make it so your kids don't eat, but I'm letting you know that I'm coming for you, and I'm coming for that #1 spot. So I'm letting everybody know. That's publicly, I've let everybody know here on the Monetization Podcast that I'm coming for you, in a good way. I mean that in the nicest way possible, of course. I think that's about it. I mean, there's, I flip real estate as well. Once again, a lot of people don't know I do that.
You have a lot of extra time you didn't have anything to do with.
In between, like, yeah, drinking water and doing other stuff, there's usually a few seconds that they're right in between that little break. No, and I would tell you, so as much as I do a lot of different things, what I've learned over the years is processes. I have really good processes. I didn't for the longest time. I was always the bottleneck. I was the guy in the middle that everything needs to be approved through me. And I was always the bottleneck. I couldn't work enough hours in the day to catch up. And I finally realized about delegation and really putting processes in place, and building a strong team. And that's what I've got today. So, the only issue with having a strong team is that you get crazy and you start building more businesses and more businesses. And which is not bad, but it's like, it's like, what is that point when you decide that enough is enough? Like, what point do you go, I'm good? Because that's not necessarily a money play for me. It's like I said, now I've jumped into the education. Like I really want to educate people, small businesses, influencers. You touched on the how to be an influencer.com course that I'm creating and will become live here in another probably month or two. I want to educate people. I want to take what I've learned and I want to give it to people. Not everybody can afford to go to UCLA. So I figured that if I can take that knowledge and if I can give it to the masses, and make it so that people are smarter when they're dealing with brands and working with brands, then I'm doing a good service. So that's kind of the goal. I don't think I missed anything. I'd have to probably look at my resume that I haven't updated in 25 years, what else I've done, but I think that's probably a good start.
Let's move on to influencer marketing. Why don't you share with me what you think are the 3 most important secrets of influencer marketing that people need to know, and maybe a great story of someone that's been really successful with influencer marketing?
Yeah, I would say, let's say 3 secrets. So I would say one is you don't have to have 1 million followers. Let's say if you're on Instagram or anywhere, you don't have to have a crazy, crazy huge audience. I mean, I know people that, that have thousands of people and they have courses that they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. It doesn't need to be this insane amount. You don't need to be on every single profile. You don't need to be on TikTok and Clubhouse and Twitter and this. I mean, those are all good to be on if you want to drive traffic back to your website, right? The goal being that's where your money's at, your monetization. And then I think the other thing is that understanding that, like, another thing about influencer marketing, I think a lot of people miss is, I know on the influencer side of things, is understanding what they're really worth and really educating the brands on that. Because that's the biggest thing I see is that people that are influencers, they don't really know how to put a campaign together. They don't understand how to pitch a brand. They're waiting for brands to come to them, and they don't understand like how to put reporting together. They just don't know how to put together like that finished product and justify what they're asking for money-wise, right? Like if you're saying, hey, it's $5,000, why are you worth $5,000? Like you need to educate me on why I'm willing to spend that kind of money on you. And they should understand why that is. They should say, hey, here goes my media kit. I've worked with these brands. We did this campaign. This is the kind of success that we had. This is who we went after, and really educating the brand why you're worth it. Because the other big question that everybody always asks is like, well, how much do I charge? And that's on the brand side too. I get brands that'll say, I don't know how much to like pay an influencer. Well, it comes down to like the influencer should be able to tell you, hey, the reason why you're going to pay this is because I'm going to do a blog post. I'm going to have you on the podcast. I'm going to create, grab that content and put it on YouTube, and I'm going to put it on my website. My website indexes well for these certain keywords. And the goal is to go after this because there's 10,000 people looking for that monthly, which that should bring back at a 3% return or a 3%, whatever close rate of this of 10,000 people is going to be X amount of $500. Like whatever the numbers are, like educate them. And that's the problem, is that most influencers aren't marketers, right? So they don't know full attribution. They don't know how to like bring this thing fully back. And so I want to train them and show them and say, like, listen, like this is how you do it, right? And also on the brands, I did a big event. This was almost about 1.5 years ago in San Francisco, where we had Amazon and we had probably 35 or 40 brands in a hotel. We rented the hotel out, not the whole hotel, but like obviously a floor. And we did the training there. And I realized that there was such a big disconnect between brands and influencers that I need to kind of get in the middle. It's like, hey, I need to like kind of educate people on both sides so that we can start having a lot more successful influencer marketing campaigns.
Yeah. So if you were advising an influencer on how to show that value, I heard several points of that. I just want to go a little bit deeper into that. So you would say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to publish you on this blog or this podcast or this YouTube channel. You'd show what you're going to do. You might show the reach, the audience. You might show how many people in the past on average are exposed or watch or engage or listen to or those types of content. You might show on average the number of clicks that come from those pieces of content to the influencer's website. You might even give some case studies of how much revenue has been generated by some of your other sponsors that you've had. What else would you do? What other advice would you give to me as an influencer to help establish that value?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on a lot of them, right? I mean, it really is, whatever you're charging and like putting together the campaign of the reason why they should pay that and educate them on that. Hey, this is what I've done. historically for a brand similar to yours, or even other brands that we've worked on, this is how we put the content together. This is how we executed the content. This is how we were able to find out, how much I actually was able to drive when it comes to sales. Like you just want to educate the brand, because a lot of brands, I'm telling you, I talk with a lot of brands still don't know how to do full attribution on influencer marketing. And if you're an influencer that comes to the table and says, hey, not only am I an influencer, not only is my audience heavily engaged, but I can show you how to put together a successful campaign, most brands are going to go, what? Okay, let's do that. I mean, I was speaking at an event in New York. This is a long time ago. This might have been 5 years ago. It was one of the first influencer marketing conferences that I spoke at, or that was even around. In fact, it was even way before its day. Like, it didn't take off because it was way before people weren't even onto influencer marketing that much. But I remember they had some YouTube people or influencers that were up there, and one of the questions I asked, and they didn't know I was a speaker, or maybe they did, I don't know. But either way, I rose my hand and said, hey, how do you guys do? What kind of reporting do you guys do? And they were like, reporting? Like, we haven't had any brands ask for any reporting. I'm like, they didn't ask for report. I was like, yeah, I'm like, but that was in the beginning, it was like, we just got to do influencer marketing. And, there wasn't tons of people doing it. So it was very successful for the most part, right? Because there wasn't a lot of people doing it. People were like, oh, Jennifer says, go buy this. And I go buy it. And now you definitely, it's a longer sales cycle, because you got to kind of educate, and people got to feel like you're being authentic. And there's some good things that you need to do to make sure that you're not bamboozling your audience. It's like, the reason why you're recommending this product is because you really believe in the product, and really building out a campaign that justifies that. Assuming that you do believe in the product, like, you shouldn't be doing things that you don't believe in, right? If you're telling your audience that you do. But I think it just comes down to like educating. The problem, the good thing about influencer marketing, the bad thing about influencer marketing for a brand is there's millions of potential influencers, right? So it's like, that's awesome, right? But the other problem is like, how do I know who's better than the other person? Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's the influencers that are educated. I say, let me show you how to put this campaign together. Let me show you how I'm going to be able to show that this was successful. Let me show you the different things that we need to do. But the brands have to be open to that, right? Like, these days, it's a frequency deal. Like, if you're putting content out there, it's not just me posting one piece of content and saying, hey, oh my God, go buy this water bottle. You got to put a campaign together. You've got to do it multiple times. And maybe you have a picture of that in the background, and I'm at the beach, or whatever this is. The idea of it is it's campaign. It's a frequency deal where people are going to see it over and over and over. And then maybe you have some kind of an offer or something like that, 10% off, Shane 10, or whatever that is, to be able to drive the people. But it's not just shoving things down people's throats. Like, just telling them, hey, go buy this right now, isn't going to work. People need to be, I'm not going to say finessed, but people need to be more comfortable with seeing it and seeing it and seeing it. And then after you give the review and saying, because it should be something that you've actually reviewed, or something that you actually tried, right? And that's kind of the big thing. And then there's ways to put together those successful campaigns so that you have a good return, but also making sure that you're authentic as well.
Why is influencer marketing so much more effective than the old school traditional advertising techniques?
Yeah, good question. So the reason why is because influencer marketing is, we look at, use Instagram as an example. I mean, when you look at Instagram, it's, the guy or girl that, has the pink poodle, and they've got the Ferrari, and they drink their chai lattes, and, drink all free champagne and the VIP. It's not always that way, but the idea of it is like Instagram's lifestyle, right? So it's like, that's kind of what I want to do. And I really want to visit that place, or God, that seems like a cool product that they're using. I'm a sucker for that. Like, anything, that looks like a cool product and I haven't tried it, I'm like, why not? I want to take a look at it. But so when you are following somebody that you look up to, and whether it be an influencer or a thought leader or politician or whoever that is, and when they're telling you to go try something that you believe in them, then that's the value there, is you have an engaged audience that believes in what you do, and believes in, and understands you and knows you, because they're watching your stories and understand about your life and your little dog Toto and all the fun stuff. They kind of feel like they know you. And when you go ahead and put down a recommendation of, hey, you should give this a try, or hey, give that a try, then there we go. Then that's what you're doing, is you're really putting it out there and saying, hey, I really think this is something that you should try as well. And I think I recommend my audience, go and try this new software program, or try this new product, or whatever that may be.
Yeah. So the been there, done that experience from someone that you trust, the influencer, is in a nutshell, one of the big reasons why it works, because of that relationship of trust. So it's going back to what businesses say about themselves really isn't credible anymore. And this is a highly credible source that businesses are using to communicate a more credible way with their potential customers.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it's like, it's one thing for me to say that I'm awesome and I'm great, but it's another thing to be on a podcast or be somewhere where somebody else is saying, hey, this is what this person has done, right? And then it comes from your audience is, potentially going to reach out to me or follow my blog or something because they love you. And they said, Nathan says, hey, this is somebody that you guys should go follow. Then guess what? People are going to go follow, right? There's no transaction there, but what it is people love you and they are enjoying what you're creating here. And so if you tell them to go do something, they understand that, hey, Nathan's been doing this a long time. He's talked to a lot of people. And if Shane is that guy that you should go follow, then I should probably go follow Shane.
Thank you so much, Shane, for sharing your stories and knowledge with us today. Here are some of my key takeaways from this episode. Number one, influencers are credible sources with reach that customers trust. Number two, we don't need millions of followers to be successful in our influencer marketing. A small but engaged following can often give us a lot of success. Number three, both brands and influencers should be educated about all the services an influencer can provide. An influencer that is knowledgeable is more likely to be hired by brands to promote their products. Number four, writing for a lot of other credible organizations is a great way to establish our own credibility. Number five, delegating. Having good processes in place and having a strong team can help relieve entrepreneurs' stresses and give them more free time to do more of the things they love. If you enjoyed this interview and want to learn more about Shane or connect with him, you can find him on LinkedIn or visit his website at shanebarker.com. And we'll have links to both of those sites in the blog post for this episode. Did you like today's episode? Then please follow these channels to receive free digital monetization content. Number one, you can get a free monetization assessment of your business or subscribe for free to the Monetization Nation e-magazine at monetizationnation.com. Number two, you can subscribe to the Monetization Nation podcast or YouTube channel. And number three, please follow Monetization Nation on Instagram and Twitter. How have you seen influencer marketing used effectively? Please join our private Monetization Nation Facebook group and share your insights with other digital monetizers. Thanks for joining me for this episode. I wish you success in your influencer marketing efforts. Do you want to become a better digital monetizer? To receive great monetization stories and secrets, please go to monetizationnation.com and join free. And if you liked today's episode, please subscribe to the show and share it.